Okay. No big deal. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Padavajaka Ashtotar, the Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Padavajaka Ashtotar, the Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavindra Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Kwantaraj srimadbhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam namaskritya Narang chaiva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord who is glorified in transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 5th day of February, Ekadashi, 2020, in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in the 4th canto, The Creation of the Fourth Order, chapter 22, entitled Prithu Maharaj's Meeting with the Four Kumaras. Text number 23. Artendriya Ramasa Goscha Trishnaya tat sammatanam aparigrahena cha vivikta ruchya paditosha atmani vinahare guna piyusha panat. 1 second. Sorry. Artendriya ramasa goscha trishnaya tat sammatanam apadigrahena cha vivikta ruchya paditosha atmani vinahare guna piyusha panat. Artendriya ramasa goscha trishnaya tat sammatanam apadigrahena cha vivikta ruchya paditosha atmani vinahare guna piyusha panat. Ramavati. Artendriya ramasa goscha trishnaya tat sammatanam apadigrahena cha vivikta ruchya paditosha atmani vinahare guna piyusha panat. Artendriya ramasa goscha trishnaya tat sammatanam apadigrahena cha vivikta ruchya paditosha atmani vinahare guna piyusha panat. Janardhan. Artendriya ramasa goscha trishnaya tat sammatanam apadigrahena cha vivikta ruchya paditosha atmani vinahare guna piyusha panat. Artendriya ramasa goscha trishnaya tat sammatanam apadigrahena cha vivikta ruchya paditosha atmani vinahare guna piyusha panat. Damodara Kumara. Artendriya ramasa goscha trishnaya sammatanam apadigrahena cha vivikta ruchya paditosha atmani vinahare guna piyusha panat. Bhakti Glenn. Artendriya ramasa goscha trishnaya tat sammatanam apadigrahena cha vivikta ruchya paditosha atmani vinahare guna piyusha panat. Artendriya ramasa goscha trishnaya tat sammatanam apadigrahena cha vivikta ruchya paditosha atmani vinahare guna piyusha panat. Word by words. Artha, riches. Indriya, senses. Arama, gratification. So goshti, with their companion. Atrishnaya, by reluctance, tat, that, sammatanam, since approved by them, aparigrahena, by non-acceptance, cha, also, viviktaruchya, disgusted taste, paritoshe, happiness, atmani, self, vina, without, hare, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, guna, qualities, piyusha, nectar, panat, drinking. All right, give me a second here. Translation. One has to make progress in spiritual life by not associating with persons who are simply interested in sense gratification and making money. Not only such persons, but one who associates with such persons should be avoided. One should mold his life in such a way that he cannot live in peace without drinking the nectar of the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. One can be thus elevated by being disgusted with the taste for sense enjoyment. Purport. In the material world, everyone is interested in money and sense gratification. The only objective is to earn as much money as possible and utilize it for satisfaction of the senses. Srila Shukadeva Goswami thus described the activities of the materialistic persons. Nidrya, I'll say you say, Nidrya hriyate naktam, vyavayena chabhavaya, divachartehi rajan, kutumba bharanena va. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1.3. This is a typical example of materialistic persons. At night they waste their time by sleeping more than 6 hours or by wasting time in sex indulgence. This is their occupation at night. And in the morning they go to their office or business place just to earn money. As soon as there is some money, they become busy in purchasing things for their children and others. Such persons are never interested in understanding the values of life. What is God? What is the individual soul? What is its relationship with God, etc.? Things are degraded to such an extent that those who are supposed to be religious are also at the present moment interested only in sense gratification. The number of materialistic persons in this age of Kali has increased more than in any other age. Therefore, persons who are interested in going back home, back to Godhead, should not only engage in the service of realized souls, but should give up the company of materialistic persons, whose only aim is to earn money and employ it in sense gratification. They should also not accept the objectives of materialistic persons, namely money and sense gratification. Therefore it is stated, Bhakti padesan ubhavo varakti anyatra cha, Bhagavatam 11:242. To advance in devotional service, one should be uninterested in the materialistic way of life. That which is the subject matter of satisfaction for the devotees is of no interest to the non-devotees. Simple negation or giving up the company of materialistic persons will not do. We must have engagements. Sometimes it is found that a person interested in spiritual advancement gives up the company of material society and goes to a secluded place as recommended for the yogis especially. But that will also not help a person in spiritual advancement, for in many instances such yogis also fall down. As far as jnanis are concerned, generally they fall down without taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. The impersonalists or the voidists can simply avoid the positive material association. They cannot remain fixed in transcendence without being engaged in devotional service. The beginning of devotional service is to hear about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is recommended in this verse. Vina hare gunapiyusha panat. One must drink the nectar of the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this means that one must be always engaged in hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. It is the prime method for advancing in spiritual life. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also recommends this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. If one wants to make advancement in spiritual life, by great fortune he may meet a bona fide spiritual master and from him learn about Krishna. By serving both the spiritual master and Krishna, he gets the seed of devotional service, the bhakti lata bij. And if he sows the seed within his heart and waters it by hearing and chanting, it grows into a luxuriant bhakti lata, or bhakti creeper. The creeper is so strong that it penetrates the covering of the universe and reaches the spiritual world and continues to grow on until it reaches and takes shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Just as an ordinary creeper also grows on until it takes a solid shelter on a roof. Then it very steadily grows and produces the required fruit. The real cause of the growing of such fruit, which is here called the nectar of hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is to water the creeper of devotional service by hearing and chanting. The purport is that one cannot live outside the society of devotees. One must live in the association of devotees, where there is constant chanting and hearing of the glories of the Lord. The Krishna consciousness movement is started for this purpose, so that hundreds of ISKCON centers may give people a chance to hear and chant, to accept the spiritual master, and to disassociate themselves from persons who are materially interested. For in this way, one can make solid advancement in going back home, back to Godhead. Om Jnana Timirandasya, Jnanandana Shalakaya, Chakshur Unmilitam Mena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So I think I've mentioned before how memorable this verse is for me, because I originally worked on this chapter, this volume, this canto, as a proofreader when I first started working on the books. This, I think, was 1974. We had done finished the third canto when we were working on the fourth canto. This is near the end of the fourth canto. So this verse always stuck in my mind. One should, especially this line, one should mold his life in such a way that he cannot live in peace without drinking the nectar of the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, what does that mean? Well, Prabhupada explains, in order to get that kind of taste, here he talks about rucha, right? Disgusted taste, vivikta rucha, means disgusted with mundane vibrations, and also very careful to avoid those who are always vibrating these material sound vibrations. And what is the basic characteristics of such persons? Just the ordinary materialistic life, we find. Someone who's interested in earning money, spending it on sense gratification, various ways, subtle and gross. Everyone has his own little list of the things that he likes to enjoy. And that just occupies one's mind. I mean, if you are raised in that kind of culture, which we have been, and everyone is living that kind of life and teaching you those kind of things, then naturally that's going to be your focus. What else is there? Then you have no idea. And of course there are all kinds of varieties. We have different modes of nature. Some people are just disgusted with those enjoyments and those things, and even those people who are in the modes of ignorance. They wouldn't dream of spending all night at some club somewhere drinking and rocking, whatever you do. It's just we would never do that. But I would go, to the country, and we'll have an outing there, we'll have a picnic and vegan and whatever, But it's still all sense gratification. It may be mode of goodness, which is good in the sense that those kind of people are more receptive to the message of Krishna consciousness. And that's, I remember, I spent my early years like any normal kid growing up in the 50s and 60s, I was eating meat and listening to, of course we were listening to classical music. We wouldn't listen to rock music in the house with a certain thing. But the basic point is that it was all within the realm of different sense gratification. But when I finally had a health crisis, and I read this book about the glories of raw food, it wasn't even just vegetarianism; it was raw food. It had nothing to do with Krishna consciousness. And I was living alone. I bought a juicer, and I was just juicing a lot. I was drinking a lot of carrot juice and all this juice, And so I was always hungry. I never really could adjust and didn't know what I was doing. But I was at least a vegetarian, and I was doing it. And then when I came in touch with yoga and books and the Tibetan Book of the Dead and the Autobiography of Yogi and what everyone was reading in those times, and of course Be Here Now book, it really piqued my interest. Somehow these things attracted me. Whereas if I was just in my ordinary McDonald's days, when I was 14, 15, 16, are you kidding? I mean, I was raised as a total atheist, communist, literally. So I was very fortunate to kind of have that part of my life kind of be destroyed. And, I had to go into something else. And I was, by Krishna's arrangement, I came in touch with the devotees, and it was very intriguing to me. And I bought a book, and, from reading the book, and it's association. So that's the main point here, is one has to make progress by not associating with persons who are simply interested in sense gratification and making money. You can see how our Acharya's writings, the Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, are derived straight from the Bhagavatam. What is this? What are the 6 things, which expand to 8, that we're enjoined to avoid if we want to advance? Atyahara payasascha pajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha lauryangscha shadbir bhakti pranashyati. Pranashyati means completely destroyed. Pranashyati. What are those 6 things which expand into 8? Atyahara, over-collecting, having too much, much more than you really need to live, and overeating. This is a big battle. I remember in the ashram, it was just really difficult. You knew that it was destructive. I don't know how many Sunday feasts I ended up lying on my back and in the bunk and say, "Oh, never again, never again." I had this thing for ladus. I couldn't resist ladus, and of course we had big feasts. 100 people would come. And many of them would leave. We'd have ladus oftentimes, and they would leave those ladus on their plates. And I would go after them, collect all the ladus and stuff the ladus. I remember doing that more than once. Oh, what have I done? I couldn't sleep, could hardly chant my rounds the next day. Never again, never again. Next Sunday, the same thing. So it's a battle. Now, over-collecting, that can be controlled, in the ashram the way it was, you can't collect more than you need. I remember we didn't even have our own laundry. It was a collective laundry. I have some pictures from those times, maybe I'll show you, from 1973, soon after I joined. Then I'm on the street in Midtown Manhattan. I'm trying to give some businessman a reservoir of pleasure. And I've got a kurta and a dhoti, which there was no even attempt, to possibly match them. There was no match. It was like light orange and dark orange, whatever. That's just the way it was. So it's hard to over-collect when you don't even have your own, clothes, But the point is that this is a general principle. And as time goes on, it becomes possible to over-collect, and it's always possible to overeat. So he's enjoining us. Atyahara priyasascha. Hard work for material things. Meaning that you're thinking all the time, how can I make more? That very thought and that very idea blocks your bhakti. Because bhakti is supposed to be as simple as possible, and you're making it more complicated. Prajalpa is another big thing. Nonsense talk. Talking about things. There's this one verse I discovered a couple of years ago in the Bhagavatam. It's just like a very memorable verse about this. Brahma is describing who goes to the spiritual world. I think it's in the description of the kingdom of God. And he's describing who gets to go to Vaikuntha and who doesn't get to go. So one who doesn't get to go is all about what you're hearing. He says, Yanna vajant agabado vachananubharat shinvanti yenya vishaya kukata matigni yastashtuta hatabagaya nibadata sadas tang tang chapanja sadaneshu damaksuhanta. Now this is the same, instruction you find in shorter verses, but it's very elaborate and poetic. It says, Yanna vajanti, they don't get to go. Vajanti means to go, to Vaikuntha. And what does he describe? Agabida. Agabida is a name for Krishna. It means he who destroys sin. In the Vrindavan Lila, he who destroys Agasha, but here in this context, it's a general point. He who destroys your sinful reactions, not just your sin. Agabadhor. Vachananuvada. Vachananuvada is a construction of words. In other words, some literary work or some speaking. Vachananuvada. Trinvanti, you hear, anya vishaya, other subjects. Vishaya has different meanings. One is a subject matter for a book that you'll hear. You see? So you're hearing things that have nothing to do with Agabeda, with Krishna. It's anya vishaya, kukata, which is kukata, right? We know about Krishna kata, how auspicious that is. This is kukata, bad. Ku is always bad. Kusharira, bad bodies, So kukata, matigni. What is the effect of hearing this? And it's everywhere. It's coming at us from all directions in this world. Matigni, it destroys your intelligence. And yastu shutai, hearing these subject matters, you hatabagai, all your good fortune is taken away. And then atasaras, your very interest in the essence of life, saras, is destroyed. You see that? That's such an important concept. And tang tang all of these subject matters, this hearing of the chapanchi, they throw you down. Tang tang chapan ashadaneshu, with no shelter, tamaksu, in the darkness of ignorance. Hanta, alas. That's the last word of the verse. Yeah, at the end. Don't interrupt. So the idea, this is just an expansion on this idea, and it's all throughout the Bhagavatam. The whole point of the Bhagavatam is to provide you with abundant transcendental sound vibration that can deliver you. Otherwise, it's all kukata. It may be in the mode of goodness, or mostly in the mode of passion or ignorance. And it'll just keep you bound up, because it's what you hear, what you hear and read, and what you speak and write is a huge part of what your consciousness is. Think about it. Well, reading, writing, texting, this and that. It's reading, hearing, writing. So here, the census is one has to avoid associating with those persons who are simply going to vibrate mundane vibrations. It's not easy. That's why the ashram is here. That's why it's so important to associate. Class was so essential. Prabhupada constantly emphasized that. Sometimes you hear him giving class and says, "Where is so and so? Where is so and so?" And you would hear, what will he do? If he doesn't hear. In other words, whatever you do is going to start to be affected with the modes of nature. So we have to avoid it. Now, on the positive side, one should mold his life in such a way that he cannot live in peace without drinking the nectar of the glorification of the Lord. So this is a very high state of consciousness. He's already praised the king, King Prithu. You're so fortunate. You've already developed the desire to hear. Remember, that was his first instruction, or his first praise of him. But how to do that? We're not born with that taste. That's why we're here. So cultivating that taste for hearing and chanting is like, the essence of advancement in bhakti yoga. And of course, the essence of the essence is cultivating the taste for the holy name. There's a memorable sentence in the Gita. I forget exactly which purport. It says the greatest Vedantist is he who likes to chant Hare Krishna, who gets a real taste for chanting the holy name. As simple as that. One can thus be elevated by being disgusted. So this is the whole idea we were reading last night about yukta vairagya. This principle of vairagya is corresponding to the principle of ruchi. We have ruchi is taste. Here it says rucha, right? Vivikta rucha means disgusted taste. Just the opposite of taste is disgust. So when we become disgusted with all the material things, that's a good sign. Now our old friends may think, "What happened to you? You don't want to, talk about all the good things we used to do." And that's often one of the big things of surrendering. You have to break off these old relationships, because it soon becomes apparent they're not going to be as interested as you are in devotional service. That happens within families. I remember my brother, I tried to, get him interested and everything. I remember he chanted one round. He said, "Okay, I'll try Hare Krishna." But he chanted with the idea of that to prove that it wasn't going to work. And it didn't work, He says, "Man, I didn't feel anything, In other words, it just wasn't there. He didn't have because although you're born in the same family, there's all kinds of different, backgrounds and everything. So that could be traumatic to a degree, having to cut off relationships. Kapila Dev mentions that in his instructions to his mother, in what I've dubbed the Sadhu Sangashtaka, where he says, what do the sadhus do? He's describing who we should associate with. It's all about association. So who's a sadhu? Who remembers the verse? Come on, Balaram. Titikshava. Ajata Shattavak Shanta Sadhavak Sadhabhushana. He's describing the ornaments of a sadhu, like the character. So it's interesting because this verse doesn't mention bhakti. That's in the next verse. But this is the effect of being, a great devotee. Tatikshava karunika. It's interesting he mentions tolerance first, because a devotee who's going to be a real devotee is going to try to give devotion to others. That's what Bhagavatam is all about. That's what Prabhupada's life is all about. Our whole sampradaya is into that. And that means you have to be merciful. That's the next word, kanuniya. Pratikshava karunika. So why is that? Well, if you're merciful, that means you're ready to sacrifice for others' welfare. I mean, that's real mercy. And the big sacrifice is going out, and meeting people who are oppositional. In the early days, devotees would get arrested for chanting. In Australia, they get arrested a bunch of times. And Prabhupada would encourage them, okay, you're chanting on the street, you chant in the jail. There's no difference, And eventually they stopped arresting the devotees. What's the crime? It's just a lot of hassle. You got to feed them, and they're not becoming discouraged, they're just coming back. And then there was this wonderful, after years, there were some years of that, then they had this Rath Yatra. I don't know if it was the very first Rath Yatra in Australia. I think it was in Melbourne or Sydney, one of the main cities here. So, they had they had rented a big warehouse where they were preparing the big, the canopies. Those are huge. You can imagine the sewing going on, So it was in a industrial district, this warehouse, so a whole bunch of devotees, ladies, And then suddenly, anyone heard this before, how there was a fire? This is a great story. And so suddenly one of the other warehouses or factory buildings caught fire. And they heard all the trucks coming, and people were screaming. So they run outside, and they look up, and up, 6 stories up, there's a bunch of ladies there who are trapped, who were working in the factory, who were screaming because they were going to get burned up, So the devotees run back to their where they were sewing, pull out all those those canopies, and they use them as not the trampoline, but the nets. And so they all hold them tight and said, jump, jump. And one by one, they jumped down, and they were all saved, and they're okay. It became a big story in the newspaper. Prabhupada was so ecstatic to see that, how the devotees said, praise for the devotees for that, because it was a natural sentiment. And it was, and then no more arresting of the devotees after that. So anyway, so the idea is that the whole society was created in order to have an atmosphere of being able to hear and chant transcendental sound vibration, beginning with Hare Krishna mantra. Before there were any books, Prabhupada took the chanting out into the Tompkins Square Park, beating his drum for 3 hours, And because it was the perfect time when stuff like that was going on, there was a crowd, people came, some of them interested, they sat down, people chanted. The few devotees he had were dancing similarly. You've seen some of the videos. But the whole thing is people were hearing. Now many people, they're hearing, and it was interesting, and never went further than that, but they benefited enormously. But a few, the hearts were more, ready to be cultivated. And so the seed of devotion, Bhakti Lata, does Prabhupada mention here? I think he does. Yeah. The Bhakti Lata Bij, the seed of the creeper of devotion, it takes root in the heart. And what that seed is, now why is it a creeper? Because it's a creeper of desire. And that phenomenon is going on all the time on material side. Why is there a multi-billion dollar, Janardhan, stay with us, a multi-billion dollar advertising industry? They're trying to plant those seeds. We have these billboards up here, and like that. They're trying to plant the seeds of desire, so that when you want something, when you're looking for a car, or looking for some beer or whatever, maybe, you think you don't even remember. Maybe say, yeah, I think I'll try this. I think I'll buy this. Investigate it. In other words, they know that people's activities are controlled by their desires, and so they're trying to plant that. And people are being victimized all over the world by that. So the same idea is there. We're advertising. We're advertising Krishna. Invest your time. Invest some of your intellectual energy in looking in this book. It's the best investment you can possibly make. Isn't that right? That's what the mantra cards are. Chant Hare Krishna and your life will be sublime. So so we're representing Krishna. Krishna is all attractive, but he doesn't appear directly. He appears through media. The media of the sound of the holy name is very important. And also the books with the words, the media of stone, statues, or wood, whatever it may be. Because we cannot perceive spirit directly. We're too covered. So out of his mercy, he makes himself available. He reaches out to the conditioned souls in every age. And in this age, he's come in the most merciful form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and whose mercy incarnation is actually Nityananda, whose day is coming up in 2 days, By the way, just to remind you, this is Ekadashi, and it's a half-day fast for Varaha day for the next day. Varaha will appear tomorrow, and the next day is Nityananda. Happens every year. Sometimes there's a merging, and it kind of gets a little confused, but not this year. So, what chance do we have? We have to purify the intelligence, get the ideas and the intelligence, so that we can direct our senses, direct our ears, in the right direction, so we can hear transcendental sound vibration and repeat it. And that's the main powerful process by which we become purified. Right there in the second chapter. Srinbatam Sukata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Ridyantaksto Abhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. This is a really important verse, probably quote all the time. And he points out in one lecture, Krishna is a nominative. He uses that very word, meaning that he's the subject of this sentence, of this verse. So what does it mean? Srinbatam Sukata Krishna. Krishna in the heart, when he understands that the devotee is hearing Srinbatam Sukata Krishna, his own kata, Punya Shravana Kirtana, he whom the very hearing of whose glories is pious activity. Just by sitting there and hearing about Krishna, you're gaining so much pious credit and eradicating so much sinful reaction. It's such an auspicious thing. Punya Shravana Kirtana, by hearing and chanting. Ridyantaksto, Krishna who's within the heart. Abhadrani Vidunoti, he cleanses away the impurities in the heart. Abhadras and anartas are practically the same thing. That which is inauspicious. All these lusty desires, the greed, the fears, all that stuff is in there. And that becomes cleansed quickly, depending on our intensity of hearing and chanting and sincerity. Because he is Surit Satam. He is the best friend of all, but especially of the Satams, of the what's the phrase Prabhupada used? The sincere devotee or the honest devotees, And what's the result? He describes the purifying process. The next verse is the one I chant all the time before class. Nashta prayeshu badreshu. When many of these abhadras are destroyed, Prabhupada gives a percentage, maybe 70%, 80%, not all. Prayeshu means almost. Nityam Bhagavata Sevya, by constantly or regularly hearing the Bhagavatam, the pure Krishna Katha par excellence, and by serving the Bhagavatam by hearing and repeating, and by serving the Mahabhagavat, two Bhagavats there, Bhagavata Sevya, Nityam Bhagavata Sevya, Bhagavat Uttama Shloke, Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. One establishes his bhakti toward Uttama Shloka, he was glorified by the best of shlokas, and Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. This word Naishtiki corresponds to the fourth stage in Rupa Goswami's ladder from faith to love. These are some verses we should really know, because it describes the development of bhakti from the first stage, Adhau Shraddha. There has to be some Shraddha. Now this Shraddha Prabhupada defined as some kind of respect or preliminary interest, enough to bring you into the association. It's not pure Shraddha, that comes with Nishta. But the Shraddha is very important. Now that seed that's planted, that's described, the Bhakti Lata Bij, part of it is the faith. That faith that will inspire you to continue the process. And the main point of continuing is to come into the association of devotees. Now in the present age, you're sitting in the middle of, Dubuque, Iowa, is it? There's no center there. How do you get association? Well, that's the upside. There's a huge downside to the internet, but there's also a big upside because it can be used in Krishna service. So you can associate. You can see, you can get some of the. But ultimately, you'll be hopefully inspired to actually make the pilgrimage or move to a place where you can associate with devotees. Or you start a center where you are. There are centers growing up all over this country. They're called the Future, what is it? FTA, Future Temples of America. There are a few devotees, moved to this area. Well, let's get together and here in chant. Let's have a little kirtan. And before you know it, they're meeting regularly. They're buying books, going out, distributing books, making devotees. And well, now let's have a temple. They're happening. They're growing up. So that's because they associated. They waded through all the garbage in the internet and found those sites where the pure vibration is taking place, and it can be very enlivening. But somehow or other, so associating. So then, when the impurities are destroyed almost to nil, Nityam Bhagavat, by regularly serving the two Bhagavats, the book Bhagavat, the person Mahabhagavat, Bhagavatam Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. One's bhakti, devotion, becomes nishta. Now that's the fourth level of this description from faith to love in Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He says, Adar Shraddha, Tadak Sadhu Sangha, association with devotees. And then Bhajana Kriya. Bhajana Kriya means, okay, I'll try the chanting. All right, I'm here. It sounded interesting. Do you have any beads? And that could be preliminary. I use beads. Or they just respond in the kirtan. Rather than just being in the kirtan and listening, checking it out, they actually start chanting. That's a big step forward, believe me. And so, so that's Bhajana Kriya. Now, there's a point in Bhajana Kriya, when one gets serious, 16 rounds, where you need to take initiation. That step is important because it hooks you up to the parampara, you take vows, you get so much mercy, and it's a big push for your devotional life. And then it continues, and then comes this stage of anartha nivritti. Now that anartha nivritti means purifying yourselves of unwanted things. Those are the abhadras that Krishna wipes away. That can take lifetimes, or it can happen very quickly, depending on your sincerity. That's where sadhana bhakti becomes very prominent. Accepting those, surrender, right? What's the first two principles of surrender? Who knows the verse? Anukulena sankalpa patikulya savarjanam. Accepting those things favorable for devotional service, even though it kind of is not what you're used to, getting up early, a cold shower. Are you kidding? It's 40 degrees out. Cold shower, Read about the devotees who went to for the first time with Prabhupada to the Magh Mela, to the Kumbh Mela in 1970. There's Yamuna Devi getting up, going through all the sleeping pilgrims, in the middle of winter in January and bathing in the Ganges. There, freezing cold. Not just Yamuna, others were doing it. Not all of them, but a lot of them were doing it. That's surrender. So but that's needed. In other words, you're accepting those things, and you feel yourself taking a step forward. Two things: accepting those things favorable, and giving those things those things that are unfavorable, which we're so attached to. That's what sadhana bhakti is all about. And you get the strength by Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, praying through the chanting. So then anartha nivritti. Now, as you progress, then you come to this Nashta Praishu verse, where many of the anarthas have been swept away. There's a whole bunch of things you're not interested in anymore, and you're becoming interested in bhakti regularly. You're committed, and so you become nishta. That's where faith comes in. The real faith that's defined by Lord Chaitanya in his teachings to Sanatana. It comes in. Shraddha shabde vishwas kore sudridha nishchoy. Krishna bhakti korle sarva karma krita hoy. This important verse. Shraddha is defined. This is a definition. This word shabde in Bengali is a little idiom. It means it's sounded. This is what it means. Shraddha shabde vishwas kohe, a very strong conviction. Sudridha nishchoy. Sudridha nishchoy. That what? That conviction that what? Krishna bhakti korle sarva karma krita hoy. That just by the regular practices of bhakti, some of which include, of course, making your livelihood. You have to, there's a whole prasadam program. There's that, but everything according to the rules and regulations, the instructions of Guru Sadhu Shastra and everything. Krishna Bhakti Koris, all my aspirations will be fulfilled. I'm not the thought I do my bhakti, on Sunday. No, every moment of every day. This is the strong faith. You may not be, on the platform of Baba yet. But that's your faith, that you're committed. Nobody can say that no, Krishna's not God. What are you doing? Get out of here. Boom. And so then, as that goes on, now this is not all mutually exclusive. Ruchi. Now, even in the early stages, ruchi is there, some taste, otherwise you wouldn't go on from day to day. But here, you really have a strong taste. That's what he's talking about. You can't live in peace without drinking the nectar of glorification. Where's the kirtan? Where is it happening? That type of thing. Or retreats, 10 days of just chanting and hearing, but it means really at every moment. So that's what he's talking about here. Ruchi, which at the same time you're beginning to be attracted to Krishna personally, as a person. An asakti, which matures into bhava. This ruchi and the asakti goes into bhava, which is ecstatic, ecstasy at hearing and chanting. We read about these, and then prema is the highest one. So, but it all begins with adau, shraddha, and association with devotees. That's what he's talking about here. So molding one's life in such a way, that's what this institution is all about. To give you a chance to mold your life, Now, we in some places like this. I mean, I wasn't here in the really heydays, the early '80s when you had 100 devotees that had to rent apartments all over the place, for all the devotees going out every day, 100 of them bringing in thousands of dollars, and distributing so many, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books every day. But that's what this institution is meant to be, a shelter where you can come, and as Prabhupada says right in the book, we provide room and board, and you can live here and do full-time bhakti. That's what we're meant to be. We've fallen a little short, but that's the whole idea. And it's just incredible that Prabhupada was able to establish so many of these mutts, temple with an attached ashram, all over the world. And, different parts of the world, different parts of this country, there's more or less that's happening that way. So that one can really have a chance to mold your life in such a way that you're just, on fire. Where's the kirtan? Let's read together. What's that shloka? You know what I mean? We have such a wealth. Just in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam itself is a great treasure chest of wonderful verses. I'll share this one with you. I may have shared it before, but some of you weren't here. Somehow or other, I was reading this chapter on the Brahmin's wives, blessed, where Krishna's out in the forest, and his friends get hungry. They're really hungry, and they said, "Oh, Krishna Balaram, we're so hungry. Please get us some food." So Krishna smiles, of course, and he says, "Okay, you go to the Brahmins. There's some Brahmins nearby here. There's smarta Brahmins." I always smile when I read it. Smarta means they're not so smart. They're just involved with the Smriti regulations. The Smriti regulations, right? In other words, they're official Brahmins and they're saying the mantras, but they really are not devotees. At least not. So they're performing these sacrifices. You ask them. And it's funny. There's all kinds of levels where this is happening, where Krishna is... he says to now ask them, don't mention my name, but you ask him in the name of Balaram. Now why would he say that? We don't often think like this, but Krishna was known as a Vaishya. Of course, he was actually a Kshatriya, but that was hidden, right? He was born as I'm talking about the externals, obviously. He was born the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. He's a king. He's obviously a Kshatriya. But he was known as a Vaishya because it was hidden. He's now the son of Nanda. But Balaram was known as the son of Vasudeva. It was known. His mother was Rohini. It wasn't Yashoda. Anyway, who was one of Vasudeva's wives. So he said, well, they'll be more likely to respond to the request of a Kshatriya than a mere Vaishya. That was his idea. That's in the commentaries. So the boys go, and the first thing they say is, Krishna and Balaram are nearby, and they like to get something to eat. In other words, they disobey that order. and they mentioned his name. But whether they mention name or not, the Brahmins just keep pouring the ghee and chanting the mantras. They don't even acknowledge their existence. And they knew that you can give us some of the food that's going to be offered because it's this. They knew the technicalities of the offering, but they didn't want to hear about it. So the boys returned, kind of dejected. They wouldn't even hear about it. So Krishna laughs. He said, "Now, you go to the wives. They're staying in a house, all of these Brahmins' wives, and you tell them, and see what happens. So they went there. So Krishna and Balaram are nearby, and they're hungry. They like some food. Can you give us some food? And they said basically, no way we're giving you any food. We're going ourselves. They packed up all the tiffins and they ran out. They lead us to him. They had already fallen in love with him just by hearing about him. Just like Rukmini. Just by hearing about Krishna, we should also have that blessing and try to achieve that. So anyway, they're going out as quick as possible. And this is the verse describing when they first saw Krishna. This is what they saw, So here's the description. It says, Shamam hiranyapadidim padibarya, excuse me, Shamam hiranyapadidim padamalya barha, Dhatu pravesha natavesham anuvatangse, vinyasta hastamitadenu donamnam abja, karno paladika kapolum mukabja hasam. Now I don't know if you could pick up on all of the kind of poetic ornaments there, but so what's the description? Shamam, so he has this beautiful black, bluish black complexion. Hiranya padidim, with a golden yellow garment, glittering. His dukula, his dhoti. Vanamalya barha, and he's got the beautiful florist garland, 5 different kinds, very fragrant, hanging down to his knees, and peacock plume on his head. He's got all the designs painted on his body with mineral pigments. This is a thing that the boys would do, And dhatu pavala natavesham. He's got little sprigs that with buds on them, fragrant flower buds. He's decorated, and all of this makes him the natavesham. He's dressed just like a dancing actor. Everything is perfectly placed, very graceful like that. And then Anuvantangse near Vinyasta Hastam. He's walking with his friends, and he's got one arm over his shoulder of a friend, okay? And with his other hand, he's got one hand over with the other hand, he's twirling a lotus. This is unique in the Bhagavatam. So they're watching this, and then Karnot Paladika Kapola Mukabjahan. On his ears, he has these little lilies, and his hair is hanging down, decorating his beautiful cheeks. And on his lotus face, he has a very delightful smile. All of that in one verse. The Bhagavatam is full of that. Now, if you can be, as devotees, if you can be enlivened with that, and you can get into the poetry, and then that becomes all attractive. When you're really pure, it's like, you go into ecstasy. I'm not going to tell the story of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, He was playing the part of a attached householder. He was getting fanned. He had all these silks and everything. And they chanted one verse. What was it? The one about Aho Bhakiyam. I think it was about the mercy of Krishna. How compassionate he is, because Putana approaches him and tries to kill him in the guise of a beautiful lady. The whole thing. This was the first demon that he tried to kill. And he knew that, even though he was a little baby, he could see what's going on. So he plays along, and she tries to suckle him with this horrible poison on her breast, and he sucks out the poison, he sucks out her life, But what happens to her? I mean, we know that nobody's their body. The demons aren't their bodies either. So she dies, but she's promoted to Goloka Vrindavan, where she's one of Yashoda's nurses, because she nursed Krishna, even though she was trying to kill him. So who could be more merciful than that? I mean, if somebody... we try to be compassionate to all, but if somebody insults us, I mean, the best thing you're going to do is try to avoid them, right? You're not going to show them like all kinds of compassion, right? Yeah. In other words, that's an incredible sign. And Uddhava said, who am I going to go to who's more compassionate? So he hears this verse, he falls down from his big platform, he rips off his clothes. For hours he's showing all these ecstatic symptoms. In other words, he was just putting on a show. But he was in that level where he could not live in peace without, cultivating hearing and drinking the nectar of glorification. So that's what the Sanat Kumara is saying to Prithu. He praised him. You already have a taste. You already have a desire to hear. That's why you're so eager to hear from me. And now he's giving a general principle that by disassociating ourselves from the materialists, associating with devotees, and regularly hearing and chanting, we purify the heart, cultivate the taste to hear about Krishna. And that taste is really the ticket back to Godhead. The Prabhupada says in one purport, and I'll end here, the eagerness to hear about Krishna is the first qualification to go back to Godhead. So, in my old age now, I'm getting very loquacious, and I've gone over time. I'm so sorry. I don't know if we have any time. Oh yeah, there's no breakfast. Cool. It's a half-day fast. So, any questions or comments? We need to have our internet. Go ahead. I'll repeat it. Don't worry.
When it first, I had an experience once where I saw the guy was the people, and he was really cute. I didn't see it physically, but I saw that was so funny to me that the master of the universe lets all these big brains running around taking the credit for everything, but he's really doing it all. And what I liked was that's how I found that it was simple. Was because I was really mad and I was actually dancing. And I said, hey, if I'm starting to forget about you, this is not good. I told God, right?
Well, that's really good, Heather. And we're gonna, if there's any other question or comment. Oh, here we have one from Govinda Charan. Just turn it on all the way up to the.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. In the purport, one line it says, the impersonalists or the voidists can simply avoid the positive material association.
Which paragraph is that near the end? Oh, here it is. The impersonalists or the voidists can simply avoid the positive material association.
I was just wondering why does it say positive?
Yeah. I think what he's referring there is that they have this idea that any form or any variety is Maya. So that's what I think that's what Parvat is talking about, the positive material association. In other words, they're looking for they have a negative view, meaning that we're going to zero out everything. The Mayavadis think, okay, we'll zero out everything, our own personality, even our thoughts, and in this way we're Brahman. We'll realize ourselves as pure Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, and we'll merge back into the Supreme Brahman, and we'll be happy there. We'll be, no more birth, no more death. So that's what he's talking about, positive material association. It's not so clear. If you want a real description of this, you go to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 10, purport. It's clear what Prabhupada is meaning there, is that their basic principle of impersonalism is fear. Their fear of having another form again and becoming attached. Because all they know of personality is a material body like we have. This is our experience. Therefore, perfection must be not having a body, not having senses, not having desires, not having personhood. The classic case of throwing out the baby with the bathwater, they don't accept the idea of spiritual senses, spiritual activity, and all these things. That's why they're called Mayavadis. Everything is Maya. Whatever there's some color, whatever there's some taste, it's all Maya. It's all, They failed to understand that Maya is just a reflection of the reality. That there's a reality out there which is pure sense activity and thought and personality. And that's why they fail. They can simply avoid the positive material association. In this case means material variety. That's what he's talking about. They cannot remain fixed and transcendent without engaging in devotional service. They fail to become attracted to all the wonderful variety of activities and sensations that are there in real bhakti yoga. They're pure sensations, which are the substance. And you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya went through this big transformation. He was of that opinion. He was trying to teach Lord Chaitanya the impersonal view of the Vedanta. But then when Lord Chaitanya taught him the personal view and blessed him, with prema, he was completely transformed. And it's so important when someone who's really experienced and respected as a advocate of this impersonal philosophy becomes a personalist. You don't find devotees, advanced devotees who are very famous as advanced devotees say, it was a big mistake. Let me merge. I'm not believing the deities. I mean, you can find, neophytes who deviate and go back to Buddhism or something like that, but that's because they never really got a real taste. Once you really get the real taste of Krishna consciousness, it's like, why did I waste so much of my time, with all of this impersonalism? So that's what Prabhupada is referring to here. It may not be so clear from that phrase, but that's what it means. The positive means what we're doing now, you know, and they consider that since that's Maya, the negative, the reverse of that, no form, no activities, no thoughts, that must be spiritual. It's a big mistake. You know, they're kaivalyam nadakayati. Such impersonalism is worse than hell for a devotee who's experiencing the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah, exactly. There's no love there. How can you have love if there's no lover and there's no loving object and there's nothing there? Yeah. All right, we have to end. I'm sorry.